Second on the grid on board the Honda, sandwiched by 2 KTMs as well. The 54, keep your eye on him. He's going to have a lot of work to do in this one. As now we wait for the green flag to wave at the back, and it does, and then we can indeed go lights out. So it looks like maybe just 1 or 2 final checks need to be done, and everyone is happy with the formation of the grid, so that means we can get going. So red lights will appear on the gantry now. And we go racing in Junior GP. It's a solid start from your pole sitter. Uriarte storms away actually at the front. It's straight away from the front row of the grid. Jesus Rios slots into second. Salmela at the moment in third, but he is battling away. Marco Morelli looking up the inside of Salmela, pushing them wide through turn 3, and Morelli up into second potentially at turn 3. They crack on the power though, heading down the back straight, and Uriarte, the 51, is absolutely on it on this opening lap. He has put the hammer down, I think it's fair to say.
I don't think he could have wished for a more perfect start if he had wanted to. He's built up a big gap already to the number 97 behind him, heading into turn 5. And just look at the spray when you're not at the front of the field.
Yeah, plenty of spray further down the order, and it's going to make things very, very tricky. And Morelli having a moment on the rear. That's where we've seen the moment from Uriarte on the sighting lap. So clearly tricky out there on the left-hand side of the circuit. Usually the line you would take on the exit of turn 5, but in these conditions, super, super treacherous. Of course, now we make our way through. We carry on racing once more and head towards turn 8. Through the left we go. Casey O'Gorman sitting just behind his teammate at the moment. I'm sure the team would have had a couple of words on these opening laps just to relax, get settled in, because it's so easy to get a little bit too excited and then suddenly you make a mistake as Salmela looks down the inside, thinks better of it and backs out.
So easy to make a mistake in these conditions. Just see a couple of riders running slightly wide through the Imola chicane there. Uriarte's lead is huge already after just 3 sectors, as the number 54 Jesus Rios looks to defend his position but drops behind Rico Salmela.
Yeah, and that's going to lose him a little bit of ground there. And Casey O'Gorman on his rear tyre, glued to his rear tyre, but Enzo Ballon, he's crashed out of this one, it seems. So really disappointing stuff there for him. He'll be hoping for a good result on board the 33, but they'll go back to the drawing board, of course, for round 4 of the season. Ballon, it was a home race for him. He came back after injury, and sadly it's an end on lap 1 of this opening lap. As now we continue to battle. Long lap penalties, of course, now coming through, and then they can take it. We've seen a couple of them taking it on the sighting laps. That, I think that's going to prove to be absolutely crucial as we continue on this battle at the front. It is Uriarte leading the way by 3.7 seconds. What an incredible first lap.
An unbelievable opening lap. Got off the line well. We just see him coming through the chicane. Oh, losing the rear, saving it on the curbs, and still building up a huge lead on that opening lap. He's pushing hard.
Oh, he's down. He's down at turn 5. Brian Uriarte has crashed out here in Junior GP. The sole race of the weekend, just 25 points up for grabs. And your championship leader, well, he's on the floor. He's trying to get the bike restarted. He's trying to bump start it. He's got no help from the marshals at the moment, just of where he is in the circuit. He's managed to get that one going though. So most importantly, the 51 has got the bike started again, and now it's time to regain your composure as we see the replay now. Tipping into turn 5 and just losing it nearly upright. The front end just locking there. A little bit too much braking pressure perhaps into the braking zone.
But so easy to do in these conditions. Maybe that first lap showed he was pushing a bit too hard. He was obviously looking to build up a gap, and he did, but just carried on a little bit too much. Obviously that has promoted Leonardo Zanini into the lead.
Yeah, so Leonardo Zanni in the lead at the moment on the 57. A nice little gap at the moment over Casey O'Gorman and Rico Salmela. Joel Esteban slotting into P4. Now Esteban, it's been a good year so far for the 78, as we do see another crash there further back in the field. That looks to be the number 13, so that's Dinesh on the ground, but he picks that one up straight away, and hopefully he can get that one restarted, because obviously all the damage is going to be on the right hand side, but it doesn't look to be too bad. Perhaps just maybe a bent handlebar that he's already tried to push in, but here is a replay, and you'll just see the number 13 high side out of the corner, losing it quite late in the corner, so the rear end just spinning up, basically upright.
Probably just putting a little bit too much power on as he tried to obviously gain time and just losing it that way.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get the bike restarted. It's taken slightly longer than maybe what Uriarte's restart was, but perhaps, yeah, just trying to punch the handlebar back into position. But Zani at the front. What a start it's been so far. Of course, his teammate, Jesus Rios, has the long lap, etc. to complete. So that will drop him down the order, and it has dropped him down the field as well. But it is Salmela looking up the inside. He thought better of it, and that has played into the advantage of Joel Esteban. So Esteban, a good year so far, as we were saying, before Danish's crash. But Esteban has been a key contender so far in Junior GP, and he's starting to look like a real challenger for the title as he goes ahead of Casey O'Gorman.
He is just moving ahead of Casey O'Gorman at a place where, in these conditions, it's very tricky to. In the Nürburgring chicane, looks like he's got a lot more grip than Salmela and O'Gorman, so he's already building up a bit of a gap. Will he be able to chase Zani down?
Yeah, of course. Right now at the front, it's a KTM 1.2 from a Honda 3.4. So both manufacturers proven to be nice and competitive in these conditions, you would have to say, as they tip in now to the Imola chicane and then through the left back to the right, heavy on the brakes. This is where we've seen Danish's crash just one lap ago. They'll go nice and safe through here, you would think, trying not to push on too fast, as we do see Esteban currently holds the fastest lap of the race, a 2:04, and well, looking at the rest of the times, that's significantly faster than quite a few riders out on circuit. A lot of riders inside the 2:08 bracket, so super quick stuff there from Esteban.
Absolutely, yeah. As I said, he looks like he has got a lot of pace. Jesus Rios has come in and served his long lap penalty, so he can now just focus on fighting his way back through the field.
And now into the 202 bracket, a 202.8 from Zani, and then a 202.6 from Esteban. So clearly the pace pushing on at the front. Whatever you can do, I can do better. But Esteban, he does have the luxury of having Zani in front. And now Zani, with the rain, if the rain's falling, continuing to fall, or even if it's drying out on circuit, it's changing every lap regardless. He's the rider that's facing these conditions first at a corner, which allows Esteban to gauge how hard he can push in terms of the 57. But O'Gorman under some pressure now from Salmela, you would have to say, for the final podium spot, is losing the rear. Zani staying on board it. Once again, proven turn 5, a very, very slippery corner on exit.
It's the slowest corner on the track, so you have to be very careful putting the power down in these conditions. It does look like the track is drying. It doesn't look like it will be completely dry by the end of this race, so the pace will get faster. Zani will obviously lose a bit of time to Esteban following that huge moment, but catching is one thing, partying is another. Also, maybe Esteban will feel more comfortable at this point, just following him and finding the reference of the track.
Well, yeah, of course, still 7 laps remaining in this one. Still plenty of overtaking opportunities left, still plenty of laps yet to complete. We're only 3 laps in, and still time for the conditions to change yet again, although I do not think Esteban's going to be waiting around. He's latched onto the back wheel of Zani, and he's looking very, very feisty. Update on the 51 of Uriarte. He's up into P19 at the moment, actually just shot up the order to P16, so it looks like, all being well, some points are still on the board for the 51 in just a few laps time. And here is replay of Jesus Rios's long lap penalty. Of course, very slippery, we would think, out there as he just makes his way back onto the circuit. Nice and safe on there, and just slots in actually behind. But fastest lap once again, 202.3, Esteban. So clearly pushing on.
Esteban has the pace at the moment. He obviously feels like he's got the grip to push just on Uriarte. Now it's damage limitation mode in terms of the championship. If he can get into the point after his crash, I'm sure he'll be not happy, obviously, but relieved that he's got something out of this race.
Yeah, it would definitely be a relief, because if he can just pick up a couple of points close to the top 10, if not the top 10, that should be enough to sort of hold on to his championship lead, or at least just make it 1 or 2 points or equal. So it could be a very, very important couple of points for Uriarte, because with there being a small break before we head for round 4, it does mean that if you make a mistake, if you score no points, it's a long, long time for that to be playing on your mind, and that crash to be replaying on your mind before we get to round 4.
Exactly, and if he can score points, maybe he will just forget about that crash a few more times as he looks to regroup ahead of Aaron. Esteban very, very close to Zani now, and We're just waiting to see what, and he's ahead at the 180-degree corner, turn 8.
Yeah, a solid move, textbook stuff from Esteban. And so far this race, actually, in terms of racing in the rain, it has been textbook stuff. He sat comfortably in second, waited to see where the grip was, and then slowly chipped away, slowly attacked, and then waited until he knew he was confident at a corner, quick at a corner, to get ahead of his rival. And now, I would guess, try and pull a pin until he has a comfortable margin.
It looks like, I mean, he's already building up a gap just a few corners after making overtakes. So I suspect Esteban will just try and build up a gap, maybe a second half, maybe 2 seconds, and then just control the final half of this 10-lap race.
Yeah, and now we can see that replay, see the replay of the overtake, and slightly tighter line for Esteban on the way into the corner, and through the move they do make. And well, solid stuff, and he does lead the field through, but we are just coming up on time. Straight crash for the number 4 at turn 3. Rider okay, but super easy to crash out in these conditions. Esteban, let's not forget, he started from P14 on the grid. He started quite the way down the order, and now chipped away, worked at it, leading the field through, as Casey O'Gorman has actually just got ahead of Zani. So can O'Gorman hold on to it going down the back straight? You'd have to say it's going to be a tough task. Honda versus KTM down the straight. Who's it going to be as they head to turn 5?
It looks like O'Gorman's just built up enough of gap to perhaps be able to defend that position into turn 5. Obviously, Esteban will use that to pull out a second ahead of O'Gorman, but the Irishman... Oh, Esteban has gone wide at turn 5. O'Gorman on the apex. Has he got an opportunity to take lead? He has. Yeah, nice safe move there from Casey and Zani, actually. Both of them looking to the left, just checking that they were not going to clip Esteban. But O'Gorman now hits the front. The Irishman in P1. The 67 leads the field through, and Esteban, he's pushing on. He's getting a little bit frustrated, I think, after that mistake. He just needs to keep his cool, keep calm as Salmela enters the podium fight. He's up into P3 now on board the Honda. That's going to demote Zani back down to 4th as well. It's a Honda leading from the KTM of Esteban, with another Honda in 3rd and a KTM in 4th. Junior GP at its finest, a 4-way fight in tricky conditions with a mix of manufacturers at the front. This Magny-Cours circuit, it has delivered in terms of action so far here today. It has in this race. We see Esteban, is he going to have a look at turn 13? He goes up the inside of O'Gorman, retakes lead. O'Gorman cutting back on the number 67. We just wait to see how that plays out. Esteban back in the lead.
And Salmela, he's caught up a lot to these front two. And although that will be a little bit from them scrapping it out at the front, Zani hasn't been able to match the pace. So perhaps the 57 struggling with race pace at its half race distance. Of course, as the laps tick on, wherever the conditions improve or get worse, the riders usually get more confidence. And that's when you see the lap times coming down, and perhaps Zani not at the same level of comfort as the top 3.
Perhaps not at this point, but we still have 4 laps to go. We're seeing some lap times coming in the 2:01, so the track is getting faster, or riders gaining more confidence, as you said, to push a little bit more in the closing stages of this race.
Yeah, it certainly is, and that was Marco Morelli and David Gonzalez, who's took the fastest lap. It was briefly Morelli just for a couple of attempts for a second before the number 11 set the fastest lap. But they have quite a lot of ground to make up if they want to match these top 3 or 4 riders, as we do see this battle actually further down the order. And this is your fastest lap rider, number 11, following the likes of Marco Morelli. And well, with Morelli being so quick, it's a perfect gauge to have in front of you.
It really is. Morelli has been quick this weekend so far. In the drive, we must stress, obviously this is the first time they've ridden in the rain. But if you're going to follow anyone, apart from Uriarte, you're going to follow Morelli at this point.
Yeah, you certainly are. And well, Marco Morelli, he continues to set the pace as Uriarte continues to make positions. P12 now for him. You would have to say, 4 laps to go, a top 10 finish is definitely on the cards.
It looks like it might be. In fact, even he's 9 seconds away from Evan Belford in 8th, so that might be a bit too much for him to do. But
top 10.
3 seconds to Leonardo Abruzzo in 9th, that is possible for Uriarte. It would be a remarkable comeback after the crash.
Yeah, it certainly would. I mean, if he could finish inside top 10, you would have to say there's nothing, not too much he could be complaining about an overall result. After that mistake earlier on, it would be a real good damage limitation. But Ramestoffer as well now, as we do see a rider down just at that corner. The Marshals running out to help. We're just going to wait and see exactly who that is, and that is Zani. So we're wondering if he was struggling with confidence in the wet, and well, there you go, he's down at turn 13. Such a tricky corner for Leonardo, as the fastest lap into the 2-minute flat bracket now, a 2-minute.9. As Zani goes off to the side circuit. It is race over.
It is race over, and that's a shame for Zani. He'd had a good race until that point. We're just going to see what happens here. A high side coming out of turn 13. Probably, again, a bit too much power, lost the grip, and the bike couldn't say yes to that.
And it did look like he wanted to remount, and the marshals just said, no. Actually, that is another crash, and that is another crasher in this one. So that is one of the Australia Lithia bikes, as we do have a red flag out. It's the red flag coming out on this one. That is the 47 that is down. That's 47 down on the deck, and up on his feet, luckily for that. But the red flag now appearing out as we wait and see. Of course, there was 3 laps remaining in that one, as they'll make their way back into pit lane for the time being. That was Dodo Boggio down on the deck. So helping the marshals push that bike to safety. Red flag appearing out, and well, in chance of getting some points on the board. They're continuing to talk about the situation. Of course, the red flag does neutralise the race, so the likes of Boggio now will push that bike back to the racetrack, back across the track actually at the moment. And that was straight back into pit lane. So the final corner proven to be tricky. We did speak about it earlier on, how tricky the final chicane can be. Of course, you almost have to ride on top of the curbs, as we do see a replay. And actually, it's after, on the exit of the final corner, he just got on the power, lost the rear, spun up and re-gripped, and down on the deck he went. And straight away telling the marshals, look, we need to get this bike back. It's a red flag in case of a restart. He wants to make his way onto the restart. And the marshals eventually letting them push that bike to the side of the track. But at the time of the red flag, Esteban is shown as your leader over Casey O'Gorman on the timing screens at the moment. But most importantly as well, Brian Uriarte made himself inside of the top 10. Parc Ferme now beginning to fill up, and it looks like that will be a result